Hi everyone, welcome to Itsy Bitsy's live read from Never Date a Siren by Byrd Nash. Chapter 1, Room Needed. Bridget lost her apartment a week after midterms in the spring semester. It didn't help her grades or her mood. Look on the bright side, said Celia. At least you won't have to deal with Sam's messes anymore. I'll be glad not to live with a pig, but he had no right to throw me out. At her angry statement, Celia reminded Bridget of her warning about getting involved with the temperamental Sam in the first place. I told you when you refused to sign that lease, you'd have no recourse if things went poorly. And with Sam, they were bound to go poorly. Bridget didn't tell Celia the reason she hadn't signed the lease was it required a background check. As it was, the freshman had already lied about several things on the college application she had submitted last fall to the Leopold Otto University in Gadamer. Leopold Otto was the only higher learning institution in the human lands even willing to admit the troublesome Fae to their program. Indeed, the country of Bee-Watcher Byrd was friendly to her kind because of the Treaty of Sigmund, but Bridget, with the spacious and skeptical traits naive to the Fae, knew welcomes could be withdrawn. Not willing to discuss the apartment lease any further, Bridget dipped a spoon into some of the cheesy spatzel from Celia's plate and ate it while looking about the hall. The two students were seated in the university's main cafeteria, a building over 400 years old which had been the infirmary of the original monastery building complex. Bridget loved the soaring ceilings, the exposed ancient wooden beams, and the floor-to-ceiling coffered wall paneling. The aged wood gave the druid pheasant shivers. You'll just have to find another roommate, scolded Celia. Before you ask, you can't sleep on my couch. I already have 3 squatting in a 2-bedroom apartment with only 1 bathroom. As it is, I'm ready to kick out Katie's freeloading boyfriend. Bridget sighed and ran a hand over her forehead, causing tight black curls to briefly pull back from her face, revealing deep brown, almost black eyes. Like many of the Fae, she was thin. It gave her a deceptive appearance of their frailty. In reality, she was twice as strong as a human of the same outward appearance. I can't sleep in the library one more night with those ghosts. I guess after you die, you give up any sort of decency. Celia pursed her lips, leaning back into her chair as she considered Bridget's problem. She was a curvy woman with long, curly chestnut hair, a friendly countenance that held sea green blue eyes, and a mild smile. The two Fae had met during the last semester and had bonded over several things. They were both of the Fae sept, or clan, of naturals, as Bridget was a dryad and Celia a Navid, and they despised the biology professor teaching the class they shared. The dining tables in the hall were filling up with students. Celia's eyes found the target, and she leaned over to tell Bridget, "What about that guy?" "Stop. Don't look yet. Yeah, he's seated now." The nursing student dropped a napkin off the side of the table and gave an expression sideways glance to where it fell to her friend. Bridget pushed her seat back and bent to pick it up, taking a casual look under her arm in the direction of where her companion had indicated. A male human with dark hair was seated 2 tables over by himself. He was looking through a textbook while ignoring the glouchache before him. Him? What about him? "I hear he has a 2-bedroom apartment. Very nice. One of those new downtown lofts. Roomy. I bet it has lots of windows, unlike Sam's cave dwelling." "How would you know about it? Been inside?" "He visited the dispensary during my rotation, and we chatted. He's here as an exchange student. The university is so desperate for money that they let him bend the rules and room off campus. The grapevine says he's from a stinking rich American family, so I bet there's no week's worth of instant noodles in his pantry cabinet." "But he's a human seal," protested Bridget. Last fall was the first time she had been around humans since leaving the perilous realm. They had disconcerted her. Their energy fields weren't exactly unpleasant, just strange. Bridget had not struck up any relationships with them yet and wasn't sure she would. It'd be weird. I've never shared with a human before. At least go look it over. Never hurts to know what's out there. When the young man finished his meal and left the table, Celia made hand gestures encouraging Bridget to follow him. Without an alternative solution, Bridget grabbed her backpack and swung it over her shoulder. Tracking him, Bridget was careful to stay far enough back, blending into clusters of human and Fae students as she traversed the quad of the university. This part of the campus was the oldest area of the Leopold Otto. The ancient buildings from the original monastery stood almost untouched, and the grand oaks made for a majestic parkland. It was her favorite part of the campus, despite the disconcerting habit of humans unaware that they were walking through the diurnal bodies of Benedictine monks. You'd think that they would give their own people respect, but it was just one of the many things that Bridget found confusing about her fellow students. Even though she lost sight of the human, Bridget had no fear she'd miss him. Like all beings from the privileged realm, she had the ability, now that she had marked him, to feel his energy trail. He wouldn't be able to escape as long as she kept her intent focused. At the corner of the campus, she found him standing at the bus stop for a downtown route. The buses were the best way to travel throughout Gadamer. The city restricted motor vehicles access, permitting only electric trolleys, scooters, and bicycles to enter the historic market center area. When the electric bus quietly rolled up, it was easy for her to become part of the crowd. Flashing her student ID at the driver, Bridget quickly made her way down the aisle. She passed him without making eye contact and grabbed a seat near a window. The bus doors shut and the vehicle pulled forward. From behind the shelter of her book, the dryad surreptitiously observed her target. He wore a button-down, long-sleeved shirt and khaki slacks, a bit formal for college life. Tall and lean, like a long-distance marathoner. He had thick, dark brown hair, almost black, that stood up like a haystack over his forehead. The bus started to enter the old market town area of Gadamer. Here, Gothic and Baroque agriculture stood side by side, acting as a physical timeline of Bewatcher's past. As they continued their route, students, shoppers, and commuters got off the coach while Bridget's target remained seated. Passing through the town center, they traveled through the former industrial area. Here, the derelict factories, their purposes long extinct, were being converted under a strictly monitored urban renewal plan. Bit by bit, a swanky modern district with planned restaurants, shops, and apartments was emerging. Like anything that they might disrupt the city's calm, Gadamer tried to hide the construction by erecting fake temporary front stores. The student finally got off the bus, and Bridget watched him pass her window, seeing his face in the profile before the bus pulled forward again. She waited for 2 more stops before hopping off herself. Circling the block, she came across the street to observe him mounting steps into a flat-faced red brick building. While it was new, it mimicked the older construction on either side of it. Bridget lightly touched the flowers and trees and the planters on the sidewalk. She greeted the plants as she edged herself closer to where the young man had entered. Beetle dung, a keypad. The Dryad muttered under her breath as she saw the first real obstacle. What do I do now? Generally, the Fae weren't compatible with technology, though most managed to exist with it. However, Bridget's problem with communication tech was so significant that the university had given her a disability waiver. Instead of a computer, she had pounded out her class papers on an antique typewriter in the basement of the library. Lacking a mobile phone in the human lands was a big inconvenience. but it was the fact that cell phone batteries died if she touched them. Bridget saw someone inside come to the front glass door, so she quickly skipped up the steps and grabbed the door before the guy exiting could shut it. Not looking back, Bridget made her way to the bank of elevators and made a show of pushing an up button. By the time the elevator doors opened, the resident was no longer in view. Ignoring the elevator's open doors, she walked over to the end of the lobby. Standing in front of a row of mailboxes, she dug into her pocket on her backpack. She retrieved a pendulum with a stone carved from moss, a grate held on a silver chain. She let the stone warm up in her palm while she told it what was needed. Feeling its readiness to assist her, Bridget held the pendulum up to the row of numbers, moving it slowly in front of the mailboxes one at a time. She had a bit of a finder in her Fae bloodline, and the pendulum didn't fail her. It swayed harder in front of one particular box, indicating the apartment she wanted was on the 3rd floor. Knowing how lazy humans were and disliking technology herself, the Fae took the stairs to lessen the possibility of meeting someone. At each landing were small, narrow windows providing a bit of light and a potted plant squeezed into the corner. Bridget took a moment to give each plant a spark of her dryad energy. In her experience, indoor plants could always use a bit extra to keep them well. She found apartment 305 at the end of the hall. In front of the door was a cocoa fiber welcome mat, and since no one was in view, she knelt and asked it, "Would you like to help me?" "I welcome people. Welcome. Hi, how are you?" It had a coarse, granting kind of voice in her head. Bridget's abilities let her communicate with organic material, whether it was living or not. She stroked the fibers with her fingers and palm, causing it to shiver under her hand. "I need inside." "Help you? I'm a helper. Wipe your feet." The palm, situated at the end of the hallway, just a few steps away, interrupted their conversation with a slight furry cough. "The man will leave in a moment with his laundry basket. I heard the laundry is in the basement. I've never been there personally." "Thanks." Bridget formulated a quick plan, and after giving them instruction, she slipped back down the hall to the stairs. There she cracked the door slightly and took a seat on the top step in the stairwell. The freshman spent the time reading and highlighting a textbook to prepare for her chemistry test. Engrossed in her work, Bridget missed the click of the apartment door. Luckily, the palm plant called out to her in its scorious voice, "There he goes on schedule. I'm never wrong about my people." Peering through the slit between door and frame, she saw the human was waiting at the elevator, holding a basket of clothes against his hip. He had changed to a more casual outfit, now wearing a dark blue t-shirt and shorts. He seemed preoccupied, as he at first didn't respond to the elevator ding. Only when the elevator doors started to close did he put out his hand to stop their motion and finally enter the lift. Seeing him gone, Bridget crept out into the hallway and hustled back to his apartment. "Welcome. Come in. Greetings." Like she had requested, the doormat had edged itself over the threshold, a corner of it preventing the front door from closing and thus stopping the lock from engaging. "What a good welcoming mat you are." She wiped her feet across its rough fibers as thanks, and it wiggled in pleasure. Not forgetting to thank the palm plant, her fingers stroked it, giving the silicone cells in its wavy leaves a burst of stimulating, tingling energy. At first hesitant to cross the threshold, when Bridget felt no barrier to admitting her kind, she stepped boldly into the apartment. A short entry hall brought her past the gallery kitchen. Curious, she stopped and poked her head into kitchen cabinets, where she found fast food packets of salt, pepper, and a few bags of packaged noodles. "So much for Celia's theory," Bridget huffed under her breath. Rich or not, he hadn't learned how to stock his shelves. She'd changed that. From the kitchen, she entered a living room with a sectional sofa, large screen television, and a sound system. The decor was masculine with a lot of black, gray, and chrome. It was very trendy in a cold and personal way, but it was a style Bridget did not admire. That, too, would need to be improved. Need plants. Rugs, too. The only thing of color or warmth was an open violin case sitting on the side table. Drawn to the beautiful lacquered wood, Bridget's hands hovered over it as she bent down to examine it more closely. The edge finish of the instrument had a beautiful pattern that called for a caress, but the vibration emanating from it made Bridget hesitate. It felt like an ancient protection. Thank you for listening to this portion.